So that stillness that we're looking for, it's not stiffness. It's not about holding ourselves still. It's about a quietness that's within our body, a sort of quietness within ourselves. That's what we're looking for. So we're going to think about that sense of peace within us. By allowing ourselves to feel supported by the earth. And at the moment, right now, you are supported. You're so well supported. Your head is on something. Your shoulder girdle is resting into the ground. Your heavy pelvis. Just really notice the weight of that pelvis as it rests back into the floor that you're lying on. But I think the best place to start, which isn't where we normally start, but in this month now, is the feet. Because when we've been spending a lot of time up in our heads with sort of a mental load that's out of all proportions, we can find ourselves really ungrounded. So what I'd like you to do is bring your awareness down to your feet. And if you can, imagine that your feet are sinking into some warm sand, slightly wet sand, so that it leaves an imprint. And if you're a visual person, you can imagine that imprint in the sand, the bobbly toes, the base of the ball of the foot, the little toe side of the foot as it comes round and down towards the big chunky heel bone. And there they are, your feet resting on the ground, feeling the support of the floor beneath them. And I'd also like you to imagine that your ankles are very wide. That in fact, really what you've got there is a huge amount of space for all of the bones and the connective tissue within the ankles, within the feet. And if you wanted to, you can imagine that your feet are like huge flippers or clown's feet, much larger than they are. Larger surface in connection with the ground. Let go of your calves and allow the backs of your knees to release and perhaps be a bit heavy through the calves, through the lower legs. Let them find the ground through your feet. And as you do so, maybe there's something that you can let go of in your pelvis. A softening of the belly, a freeing up of your sit bones. Working your way up the body, notice the weight of your shoulder girdle, the backs of your arms, the shoulder blades, resting into the ground. Imagine that you're wearing a t-shirt, and where the sleeves of the t-shirt wrap around the tops of your arms is where I'd like you to ask something to let go. As if the connective tissue there is baggy and free. As you let your right arm rest back into the floor, think about the distance, the space across you, all the way to the left arm resting back onto the floor. Most commonly, when we talk about constructive rest and the thinking directions that we practice within it, we'll start at the neck. But we're going to think about the neck now. And I'd like you to bring your awareness to the front of your neck, from under your chin all the way down through to your collarbones. I'd like you to ask it to soften. Give up all of that holding, whatever reason it's been hanging on. And as you give up holding through the front of your neck, see if there's a little bit of ease and freedom through the upper chest, as if the collarbones have lightened up a bit. Perhaps it's easier to breathe, less hanging on through the armpits, all these things connected to the neck. Notice the weight of your head resting back onto your books or your block or whatever you're resting your head on. Using your sensory awareness, feel that back of head as it rests into the ground via this support. And at the base of your back of your skull, I'd like you to think, imagine, ask for it to widen, as if there's a sense of broadening expansion through the base of the back of your skull. Another way of us thinking about this is to release and let go through the muscles at the backs of our ears, on the left side and then the right side. Sometimes if I'm really tired, I just think of my ears falling backwards into the floor, sort of giving up, really, giving up the effort. And then add on that thought to a widening through the base of the back of the skull. And as we free this area, this very top of the spine area, we can find that the whole column of the neck can relax back into length. But sometimes the neck isn't just hanging on at the top of the spine, it's hanging on at the base, where the back of your neck meets your upper back. So if you can take your mind there and imagine someone very lovely is smoothing out your shoulders from the base of the back of your neck out through to the tops of the arms, somewhere where those t-shirt sleeves were ending. A widening through the upper back, a widening through the neck even. Soften your tongue. Let it rest within your mouth, wherever it rests. Make sure that your teeth aren't clamped together, but there's a resting energy within the jaw and down through the front of that neck. Even when we're resting in semi-supine, the head is releasing forwards on the spine. And I think sometimes that's a hard thing to grasp. But if you ask for the front of your neck to soften, and at the same time ask for the back of your neck to lengthen, you might just notice an inclination of a forward tilt through the arrangement of your head and neck, as if the top of the spine inside your head is dropping back to the books that you're lying on, and that the skull is nodding forward in relation to it. Don't let it be a worry. These things all work themselves out eventually. Come back to your back. Notice which parts of it are resting into the ground. Probably the shoulder blades and the pelvis too. And somewhere between those areas is a magnificent lumbar curve, springy and alive. Think about the lower back ribs around your lumbar curve area, releasing into width. So that as you're breathing, your rib cage can expand fully and then release back again. Soften your belly and let your back widen. Allow your lower back ribs to drop back into width. Don't worry about the position. It's more about a condition of tone and mobility. Enough mobility within the rib cage throughout your back and your sides and your front, so that as you're breathing, your ribs are free to expand and release. The back of you, the sides of you, and at the front of you. From your waist all the way up to your armpits. Softly moving, expanding and releasing with each breath. If you can, take your mind dropping back and into your rib cage to somewhere at the front of your spine. And begin to think your way like a flowing river of energy up through your front of spine. And as you're thinking your way up through the front of your spine, you're expanding the awareness of yourself by leaving your pelvis resting on the ground and ungripping in your legs. It's your mind that's doing the work. Thinking of your natural length without effort as you leave your legs alone. If your legs feel like they need a little encouragement to do less, to ungrip, you can sink your way through your thighs, up and out through the knees. If you feel that you need some stability in the legs, acknowledge that the heads of your thigh bones rest back into your hip sockets. Say hello to your feet again. Your left foot and your right foot. The weight of them, the freedom within them. Really thinking out through the toes, especially through the little toe. Waking up that side of your foot. The little toe, the toe next to it. On your left foot and your right foot. And then think your way all the way across to the base of the big toes and ask again for that releasing, that dropping down energy. Base of the toes connecting with the ground. The front of your feet widening in response to your directed thinking. And then using only your thought, think the big chunky heel bones back away from the front of your feet. Your feet are well planted now. Feeling the support from the ground. And without doing anything, without adding any complication, I'd like you to think the top of your head away from your resting feet. It's not a doing, it's a thinking. No action required, no sneaky muscular activity. A simple thought. I think out through the crown and I rest my feet. I allow my body to relax into length and width. I allow the freedom in my neck. As the head releases away from the top of the spine, I allow my back to lengthen and widen. From that widening back, I think with the knees forwards to the ceiling and spiraling away from each other. Ask your arms to do nothing but rest. Simply letting go in the armpits and allowing the elbows to drop back and down and away. So this is the part where I offer you options. One option is that you roll on your side in a moment and come on up to sitting. And another option is that you're happy where you are and you stay lying down on the floor for a bit longer. And that's entirely your choice. But you've been there for 25 minutes. Doesn't time fly? And which is a good time to lie on the floor. If you are easing your way out of this position, do so with mindful attention to all of yourself. Softly rolling or rocking through the pelvis, perhaps lying on your side for a moment. If you're stretching, make it be soft, make it be gentle, like a cat having an easy stretch after a nap. And if you have got the time, now would be an ideal time to sit in a bit of stillness. The sort of stillness that you could almost call a meditation, because you calmed your body and your mind. And sometimes it's nice just to enjoy that. So thanks for joining me. I'll be back again in January. My colleague Mireille is also running a constructive rest session, I think either on Sunday or next week. If you want more details, get in touch if you haven't already had them from me. And yes, I'll be back in January. Have a lovely festive season.